stand by. Good day, and welcome to today's webinar, Xenos Repository Advanced Document Storage, hosted by Actuate Xenos Group. This program is being recorded. We hope you enjoy the program, and thank you for taking the time to be with us. If you are having any difficulty logging into the web presentation, you may reach VisionCast Web Technical Support by calling 888-334-0282 or 719-457-2792. All audience lines will be in a listen-only mode during the program. However, you are encouraged to submit web questions throughout the conference as you think of them by clicking on the Q&A link at the top of your screen. A box will appear on the screen in front of you. Simply type your question in the box and then click on the Ask button. Our speakers will address web questions at the conclusion of today's presentation, and any web questions not addressed within our available time will be answered by way of post-conference email. Lastly, to view today's web presentation at full screen, which is highly recommended, especially during our live demonstration, please press the F5 tab on your keyboard or locate the Maximize Screen icon, which is located in the lower right-hand corner of your screen console. You simply need to press F5 again to return to the main console to submit a web question. And at this time, I would like to introduce our speakers. Joining us today is Will Davis, Sales Engineer at Xenos. Will has been in the information solutions industry for over 10 years and has worked at Xenos for over 8 in a number of capacities, including professional services, product development, product management, and most recently, sales and marketing. He has designed and implemented systems for financial services, insurance, ports, manufacturing, healthcare, and telecommunications. Also joining us is Jeff Williams, Director of Product Marketing. Jeff leads the product management group at Xenos, where he interacts closely with virtually every department in the organization, as well as external customers and prospects to drive overall product direction and gather market research. He has over 14 years' experience in the technology industry, with over 8 years in the HPPO and ECM markets, and over 5 years in product management. Jeff started at Xenos in 2002 and has held a range of responsibilities that help shape his understanding of the market, from the technical product requirements to the overall business drivers. Xenos designs, processes, stores, and delivers high-volume print and electronic documents for top-tier organizations in financial services, insurance, telecommunications, and utilities. And now for opening remarks and introductions, I would like to turn the program over to Jeff Williams. Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody, to our webinar today. Basically, to start the program, I just want to go over a little bit about Actuate Corporation. We were founded in 1993. We're traded on the NASDAQ. Xenos Group itself has been around for about 30 years, and I hope you're all familiar with us. We were acquired back in 2010 by Actuate Corporation, really to help out, provide documents to their business intelligence and reporting toolkit. So back in the end of August, we released the Xenos Repository, and that's what we'd like to speak about to you today. Xenos Repository has been designed to address many of the issues and aspects of high-volume document storage that organizations encounter today. There's regulatory storage requirements such as SEC, SOX, HIPAA, Check 21, Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act, and DOD, just to name a few. There's also reporting requirements for the operational aspects of the repository. Things like uptime, documents stored, retention actions, user actions, storage used, and others. Also, customer support, we find, wants to reduce costs through the implementation of online customer self-service channels. And that's something that Xenos has been involved with for many years now, helping to enable their customer self-service channels to allow customers to view their online statements. Additionally, customers have come to expect an interactive and customized view of their content, and they expect that immediately. A lack of speed and or viewing options introduces customer satisfaction issues. For example, if a document or web page takes more than a couple of seconds to load, users assume that something's wrong. They'll keep clicking on submit or view, possibly causing issues for the system. And of course, the solution has to be easy to use, scale to the growth of the business. It must be able to provide valuable information to the business and perform at top speed. One of the things that we've been encountering lately is being able to deliver content across multiple channels. And that's not just taking a piece of content and throwing it at each channel itself. It's actually making it relevant to the user and making it relevant to the channel itself. Finally, customers are also looking, or not customers, businesses themselves are looking at having a single access to multiple repositories. Obviously, a organization may have multiple different document stores, high volume content versus, and also for ad hoc content, and they want to be able to use a single instance to view all of that content. So Xenos Repository was designed to take all of these requirements into account. It provides the benefits to e-system integration, reduce operational costs, and improve business return on investment. Based on the expertise in Xenos's enterprise content management, we're able to provide a industry-leading performance and scalability today and into the future. Today, we'll show you how Xenos Repository will address capturing, indexing, and loading high volumes of transactional content and storing it according to regulatory requirements. Also, how we provide a user interface for searching and retrieval of static content, our built-in document transformation and interactive presentment of content, how we've instituted an advanced abstracted storage mechanism for the separation of logical and physical storage, along with the built-in document storage reduction, and how we connect to third-party repositories and how you can leverage that through our single RUI interface. So to start, let's take a look at loading content. Well, Xenos has been used by many other third-party vendors in the past to index and transform content to be loaded into these ECM systems. With Xenos Repository, it's no exception. We leverage our industry-leading document transformation technology to index and transform content that can then be loaded into Xenos Repository. By doing the indexing and transformation, we make it easy, or make it a lot easier to search and retrieve content, so end users get a better experience, as well as enabling electronic discovery. Additionally, through Xenos data transformation technology, organizations can easily augment the metadata that's extracted from the document. They can put in additional structured data, fields from sources such as buddy files, databases, and even other systems via APIs and web services. So at this point, I'd like to hand it over to my colleague, Will Davis, to walk you through how we load content into Xenos Repository.
Thanks, Jeff. Really appreciate that intro. So I will be cutting in and out here, showing various areas of the product. The first thing that we're going to show here, as Jeff mentioned, is we're going to show how you can index and store documents as they're created out of your composition systems. So what you're seeing in front of you here is Xenos Developer Studio. This is the development environment that we would use for not only indexing your content, but also setting up process flows and the business logic around how you want to move the information through your organization. In this case, we're going to receive an AFP input file, which I can show you. We are going to index it based on account number and name, and we're going to also break it up as we load it into the repository. So within this, this is about 45 pages, and there's about 15 statements inside of it. So if I switch back over to Developer Studio here and open up the process flow, this is how the information is actually going to run through. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to index the document, then going to augment that index and pull in information from a database. And then we're going to load that into a repository, and then we're just going to send a quick email to say that it was successful and also send the index along with that. So in order to index the document, I'm going to open this up. We use a number of things to actually index the document and work with it. So using our technology that we've had for many years, we're going to parse the AFP. We're going to go into that AFP and pull out fields. In this particular case, like I mentioned, we're going to pull out the name, account number, etc., and we can see how I've labeled this on the AFP itself. And we can actually see, without actually running this, that we're pulling these fields appropriately. And if I move through the pages, we can see that that's not being pulled until we get to the next statement. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to use the indexer component to break up the document, and we're going to break up that document based on account number. And we're also going to pull out specific fields for indexing. So I'm going to use account number, full name, and statement date. And I'm also going to set a custom property for date. So in this particular case, I'm setting the date to October of 2012, and we're going to use this as we load it in. Next, we're going to write out the index, and we're going to use the fields that we previously defined. We can see these document properties. We can also set some file properties. Maybe you want the statement date in the file properties, or you want a file name or something along those lines. And we're going to utilize the repository index writer. We have some other options, such as on-demand, if you want to index and load into on-demand, or FileNet, or one of our other products called InfoWeb. And we've also written a variety of custom indexers for things such as Documentum or Oracle's UCM through custom adapters. And then next, we're just going to generate that PDF. So once this gets run, if I quickly run this, it's going to generate some output. If I navigate to my TS for Docs directory, here's the output PDF. This is a stacked PDF, so all the resources are going to be duplicated and whatever else. And we're also writing out this output index. So if I see that output index, we can see that it's producing index values for that. So April Black was the first statement. Here's her account number, and here's also her date. Now, what a lot of organizations face, though, is that they might have multiple lines of business. So April Black's account number for the banking statement might be 455-9999-0001, but for another line of business, it might be completely different. So what we have is we have a database set up that has kind of a linking account number for April Black so that we can link her to multiple different areas of the business. So in order to do that, obviously that's not in the document itself. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to augment the index, read it, and do a quick lookup on the database to select the new account number and actually add that into the index. So if I cancel out of that and I go to resolve, this is actually going to run a transformation. It's going to take this first index, which we can see has these 3 index values, and it's actually just going to tag on a secondary account number here, right here. So 9999-4555-0101 for April Black, and so on throughout the rest of the accounts. If I exit out of that, the next thing we're going to do in this flow is we're just going to load up the repository. Really simple. We have the PDF, we have the index, and that's just going to load it into the Best Bank Statements application within the repository. And then, like I mentioned, we're just going to send a quick email. So there are a number of ways you can actually run this. You can schedule this to go out and maybe kick off your composition process, pull in that AFP or PDF or whatever, index that, augment the index, and then load it in the repository. But we also have a variety of other things. that we call events that would actually listen and wait for things to happen on the system. So maybe your composition system actually outputs a file up onto an FTP site or onto a mainframe, or even just into a local directory. What we have are things called events that can actually listen for that. In this particular case, just because this is a demo, I'm actually just going to run this process flow, and it's just going to read a file that I've already set up, and it's going to load it into the repository. So I'm going to execute this. It's going to execute, and I can actually view the log, and we can see a variety of things, what it did with the AFP, or what it did with the AFP, how it mapped the fonts, and how it actually loaded into the repository, looking at the database, just a whole bunch of stuff around that. And if I actually check my email, we can also see that an email was sent to me at 11:19, and I can open up that index, and we can see that new index that we're creating. I'm now going to pass this back to Jeff so we can continue on with this, this demonstration, or his presentation.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Will. So we've gone through how you load content into Xenos repository. Now we want to show you a little bit about the repository user interface. So Xenos repository includes the repository user interface, which we call RUI. It allows users to log in, search for, and retrieve documents. Although RUI can be deployed and available for customers outside the firewall, its primary design is for use by internal users, such as customer support reps, to provide simple, fast lookup of content stored within the repository. Additionally, users can script advanced queries against the repository, searching across multiple applications. For large documents, Xenos repositories made it easy to retrieve and view segments of a large document without the need to retrieve and transform the entire document. With the same functionality, users can also select multiple documents that are returned either in the table of contents or in a search and view them together in a multiple document view without needing to switch windows. They can also select and save documents to their desktop directly from RUI. And Xenos RUI also includes the favorites feature, really allowing users to save their most commonly accessed applications or reports so they don't need to traverse the entire application tree hierarchy each time they want to navigate to a particular document, which in the end saves them time. And I will hand this back to Will to show you a little bit about the Xenos user or repository user interface.
Thanks, Jeff. I'll share my desktop again here. So what I have here is just my browser. I'm using Internet Explorer. Our repository UI has actually been developed so it can run on multiple different browsers such as Chrome or Firefox. In this particular case, I'm actually just going to use Internet Explorer. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to log in as April Black. You saw that the first statement within that bundle was April Black. So I'm going to log in as her, and what I can do is I can actually navigate down through the structure tree, and I can actually see that she has multiple statements already loaded. And here's the one that I actually just loaded, the PDF file. When I bring this up, we can see that her statement is showing up, and we can see all the index values associated with that, such as the statement date and also the secondary account number. I can view that, and she can view her statement. Now, the problem with this, and something that we found from our customers, is this is actually a pretty difficult tree here, navigating down 5 levels, and actually she has some telco statements here as well, which is also going to navigate down. But maybe April doesn't really care about her telcos, so what she might want to do is actually just set up a favorites so that she only views the statements that she wants to view, and she can actually just go into those immediately. So she got set up her favorites, and she said, hey, I only want to see my best bank statements. So again, she can go into these and she can view these. Now, when we loaded this, you saw that there were actually 15 statements. In this particular case, April can only see one statement, which is the way it should be. I mean, we have security settings set up so that April can only view her statement. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to log out and maybe think of an administrator or a CSR who has to view all the statements that are actually loaded. So I'm going to log in as global admin here. And if I navigate down, of course, the global admin can set up their own favorites. You can also see that the admin also has access to insurance letters too. But if I go into the statement and I look at that statement that was just loaded, I can actually see multiple accounts here because their security settings are set up to say the global admin can see everything. Now, Jeff also mentioned being able to view multiple different statements through a multi-content viewer. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to search for everything from April. I'm going to search, and that didn't quite work. I can actually search for everything within the repository and maybe actually view multiple statements at the same time. So this is going to come up, and now we can see, and I can actually flip through multiple statements. And what this is actually going to do is do some transformation on the fly, because these are AFP files, as the other best bank statements were loaded as. Now, what could also happen is April might call up and say that she has a problem with her statement, both from a telephone standpoint and also from her banking statement. So I'm just going to go into the advanced search here, and I'm going to pull up April's statements for June and also across multiple applications. So I'm pulling these up, and I can view these within the multi-viewer again. And now I can flip back easily between her SF mobile statement and her best bank statement. And now I'm going to pass this back to Jeff so he can continue on with the presentation.
Thank you very much, Will. Let me just flip the content here. Perfect. So we've seen how Xenos repository user interface can be used by a user to search for their statements, how it can be used for an admin or CSR to provide them value in looking at statements when a customer calls in. Next, we want to take a look at the built-in transformation and interactive presentment. So, as I'm sure many of you are familiar with, Xenos has been in the print stream transformation space for about 30 years now. In fact, we innovated the document transformation capabilities in the market. So utilizing Xenos' transformation technology, users can view the content in any format they want, while administrators can control and limit the formats that users can see. Additionally, through the use of Actuate BIRT, statements can be made to be interactive, allowing for the aggregation, sorting, and charting of content for end users. They can actually sort of take control of how they want to view their content. So consider an organization that's creating and storing static documents, let's say AFPs or PDFs like Will showed. Right now, they can currently only provide the statements in a PDF format, which sort of predefine how the users can view and interact with their statements. Consider an organization that has operational line data reports, you know, those 1,000-page reports that people need to search through just to find the correct information. And once they have, it's not really usable until they've exported it into Excel or into another application. Now, with Actuate BIRT added, you can turn these old point-in-time reports and content into, let's say, an easily understandable dashboard, viewable on multiple channels, such as tablets, mobile, web. I was going to say print, but that would probably be more the static approach. And you can do that without needing to implement another channel. So I'll hand this back once again to Will to show you the dynamic transformation that we do, along with the interactive presentment. Will?
I'm back. What we're going to do here is we're going to log in as our favorite person here, April Black, and what we're going to show is, well, maybe I'll type in the password correctly too. We're going to navigate back down into our statement, our banking statement, which we've already worked with, and if I view this, we can actually see, again, this is very static content. You can't really do much with it. She can select text off of it. Maybe she'll have Excel open in another program and she can start entering data. But as Jeff mentioned, we can actually transform this stuff on the fly so that she can view her statement however she wants. So if you can imagine, she has an accounting application that if she wants to pull her statement data into, she can actually just choose CSV from the drop-down, and using the technology that I showed you earlier to actually index the statement can now actually be used to mine data off the page and display it however you want. So maybe she wants CSV. But we also offer some other options. Like I mentioned, we can actually pull all the data off the page here. So if you want access, if you have downstream applications that want to actually just get access to the statement data itself, you might want to use XML and actually just through a web service call it, and you can now grab the XML data, which will have all of her information within it. Additionally, Jeff also mentioned interactive content. So using Actuate's BIRT software along with iServer, we can now actually view April's statement and manipulate it however we want. So I'm going to enable interactivity here, and once again, just using her statement, I'm going to sort this. I might want to sort this based on the highest value. So I can see that her highest charge last month was Taco Bell, and she spent $400 there. If I want to bring this back, I'm just going to bring back the dates. You could also filter this data if you just wanted to see the top 5. If you just want to see maybe the top 5 charges. But what she can also do is maybe utilize something that she's more familiar with. So I'm actually just going to switch the view here. And now she can actually view her statement as the month has progressed. Maybe she was feeling a little rich there at the end and she spent $450 at Taco Bell. But the rest of her month might have been a little more in line with what her goals are for financial reasons. I'll pass this back to Jeff so he can continue on.
Thank you, Will. Okay, so now that we've walked through the transformation and interactive presentment, I want to go on to the repository storage management. Xenos Repository provides various management and storage capabilities, as you'd expect. Starting with the content storage model, Xenos Repository has implemented an abstract storage layer, allowing administrators to easily bring on new physical storage devices without needing to redefine the entire application. You just add a new physical data store and link it to the logical data store. Additionally, retention rules can be set to move content from fast access, high-cost storage, such as local disk, SAN, to longer-term storage mechanisms, such as EMC Centera. And additionally, organizations can leverage the Hadoop distributed file system implementations. This allows them to provide low-cost or lower-cost distributed storage while also introducing redundancy for high availability. As with all repositories, security, retention, and disposition have to be built in, and Xenos Repository is no exception. We also allow for LDAP as well as a local user repository. What I'm showing right now is a representation of the repository storage management. Xenos Repository will communicate the applications that Will showed earlier that you're searching upon, communicate with a logical data store. And the reason that we separated the logical data store from the physical devices was really to make it easier for admins and organizations to set up their applications and not be tied to a particular physical device. In this case, it provides really an abstraction to reference one or more physical devices from a logical data store. And as you see, we do support local SAN, network addressable storage, local disk, which, as if any of you have had to purchase a new brick for a SAN, is not very cheap. EMC Centera for the long-term worm-based storage. FTP if you want to provide, say, a backup of the content that you're loading. And additionally, Hadoop DFS, which is sort of the first out there in the marketplace. And you can also set your retention rules to move content from the local SAN, say, after 3 months, and put that into a Centera, or after 13 months into a Centera for long-term storage for the regulatory part of your required storage. Additionally, we have the Xenos Repository Management Console, and that's the place where you log into to manage the applications. You want to look at different repository instances, set up your configuration databases or your schemas for the application. You can define your groups, your users, and set the permissions on the documents or the applications. Additionally, that's where you go to set up your logical and physical data stores and define your records retention and disposition rules. So I'll hand that back to Will to show you a little bit about the management console and the storage layer. Will?
Thanks, Jeff. What I'm going to do is I'm going to log in as a global administrator here and show you how the actual administration console and how you would configure the various areas of the application. So if I log in here, it brings up my management console. I can view my applications. Maybe I want to add some applications. I have 3 applications in there right now, various properties, various schemes. But most importantly, what we want to look at is the actual physical data stores. If I go into my retention tab here, I can see that I have one physical data store loaded right now where I'm storing all of my content. The problem is the size is actually down to 1.35 gigabytes. And I know personally that I'm probably going to be receiving about a gigabyte per week in statements. So what we actually enable is the ability to, on the fly, actually just create new physical data stores. So Jeff mentioned a couple different ones, such as Hadoop or Centera or even FTP. I'm just going to load up. I have another hard drive here that I picked up, and I'm just going to load another file system here. Oh. I'm going to put in a new path here. So this hard drive I know has actually quite a bit of space on there. You'll see this priority tab here. I'm going to keep this as primary. But what this actually enables us to do is actually store things in multiple places so that you can hit your SLAs that your customers actually require and need. So we might actually have multiple primary data stores, storing both of them, and those would actually be used for retrieving data and documents and using our own clustering mechanisms. And then if none of those are available, maybe going on to secondary and possibly storage. So this is actually going to be primary. If I load that up, I actually see that I have 240 gigabytes free on that, which is great. So now all I really want to do is I want to point this logical data store that I've been using so far to load my data, and maybe I actually just want to write to this one instead of the old one. So just as simple as that, I can save this, and now as I'm loading things in, it's going to go off to that secondary storage. Of course, the other one's still going to remain active because you still have to read stuff from it, but all new stuff is going to go into that secondary storage. Jeff also talked about retention and actually setting up specific retention rules around your data. So maybe you want to delete things after a year or after 6 months. Setting up stuff like that is actually pretty simple. We just set up a rule here, click OK, and actually set up maybe after 6 months, I want to, or after 3 months, I know that most of my customers are actually going to not be accessing their statements more than 3 months old. So maybe after 3 months, I want to move things over into secondary storage. So I'm just going to move a file here, and I can actually move it off to a different logical data store. And I can also set up retention rules on that data so that maybe after an additional 9 months, I then move it over to something such as Centera for very low-cost storage. I'm going to pass this back to Jeff now so he can go over the next items.
Thank you, Will. Just bring up the slides again. So since we've covered the storage, or the way that we address storage, I just want to take a look at third-party connectivity. So in addition to Xenos repository, the RUI can connect to other repositories. Statistically, organizations or even lines of business own 5 or more repositories serving various purposes. And even though they can consolidate these repositories into a single one, or maybe less, there may still be a need to maintain more than one repository to support a organization or a line of business. Those Xenos repositories allow users.
Jeff, sorry to cut in here. You're actually still on the demo slide here.
I can't seem to bring that up, so I'll just keep going. Well, so Xenos repository allows users to connect to a third-party repository through RUI and through the APIs and web services. Those repositories can be IBM Content Manager on Demand, FileNet Content Manager, P8, Fauna Image Services, EMC Documentum, and additionally, recently, we've added the ability to connect to other CMIS, Content Manager Interoperability Services enabled repositories, such as Microsoft SharePoint and Alfresco. So I will hand that back over to Will to show you a little bit about the third-party repository connectivity, and sorry about the slide mix there. Will?
Thanks, Jeff. So as Jeff mentioned, we've abstracted the layer to different repositories, and we call that a repository services layer. What that enables us to do is write repository UI on top of that repository services layer. So all of that functionality that you've just seen on our own repository, we can actually apply to other repositories. In this case, I'm going to connect to On-Demand, but this could easily be SharePoint, Alfresco, FileNet P8, Documentum, etc. So I'm going to log in here. Now, this is going to be a bit slow because I'm going over a network share to On-Demand located in the office. But we can see here, I've loaded this up, and I can actually choose an application. Of course, we're obviously going to have the best bank statements in there, something that we've already been working with. Now I'm going to select that and pull up the document within there. So we can see April statement here of Best Bank is now available. But again, because this is all running on top of Enterprise Server, all of that wonderful transformation on the fly is now available on top of On-Demand using our repository user interface. So CSV file, and I can also do interactive content. And this is going to take a bit, again, just because it's going over the network. But here's April's statement again, and I can do interactivity on this. Now I'm going to pass this back to Jeff so he can wrap up this presentation.
Great, thank you, Will. One of the things I wanted to bring up, based on Xenos' historical core competency as well, we won't be showing it, is the accessibility aspect. So looking at other repositories and the ability to, through RUI, through the web services, be able to make documents that are stored there for regulatory reasons accessible for the visually impaired by tagging them appropriately, putting in the alternate text so they can read by screen readers. And as Will showed, looking into other repositories, we can make that very easy on top of whichever repository that you currently have. So in summary, we've shown how organizations can achieve cost reductions through implementation of repository, increase customer satisfaction, meet their regulatory document storage requirements while maintaining high service level agreements, and additionally, one of the things is improving system reporting. Will showed the ability to look and see what your storage was like, but with the addition of Actuate BIRT, there's a lot more that you can report on for the system. All of the user actions and admin actions are logged within the logging database, so you can create reports that query the database and pull up essentially the user patterns and admin patterns. So with Zenos Repository, you can get a complete control of your repository and archive and keep up with your future requirements in implementing this true system of engagement for your customers, not just the system of record that is required for regulatory reasons. So at this point, I'd like to open the floor to any questions. And keep in mind that if you have a question that comes up later on, please send an email to info@zenos.com, and we will get back to you with an answer. Additionally, if you want to see more of Zenos Repository or any of the Zenos offerings, please send us an email or phone us up, and we'll be happy to set up a meeting with you. So with that, I'll hand that over for questions.
Thank you. And as a reminder, to submit a web question today, simply click on that Q&A link at the top of your screen. A box will appear on the screen in front of you. You will type your question in there and then just click on the Ask button. Again, any web questions not addressed during the available time today will be answered by way of post-conference email.
It looks like we have a couple questions that came in. First question is, I noticed that you converted the AFP to PDF before storing. Is this a requirement of your repository?
So I guess I'll take that one. The conversion of the AFP to PDF, it really depends on what your organization's requirement is. Zenos transformation technology, as I mentioned earlier, has been around for a very long time, and it's very quick in converting content. So what we typically suggest to our customers is to store the content in its native format. If you need to do conversions, or if you need to do reprints, for example, you can take the AFP, if you stored it as AFP, and send that directly onto the printer. Additionally, certain regulations may require, or not regulations, but certain organizations interpret the regulations differently. Some will say the PDF that you store is a 100% fidelity representation of the communication that was sent to the customer, and they'll be happy to store PDF. Others say we need to store the exact original content which was created as AFP. So really, it's up to the customer, and Zenos Repository will allow you to convert from one format to the other as it's requested from the either the web app or RUI. Additionally, by storing as AFP, well, even PDF actually, Zenos offers the document storage reduction. So effectively pulling all of the common resources, images, fonts, logos, from the statement and storing those once in the repository. AFP is typically smaller if you're creating that, but we can also do that for PDF and store the resources alongside the batch of PDF files that were loaded, so that when you retrieve it, we'll do the conversion and reassemble that PDF so it can be viewed. So in short, you can store content in whatever format it was created or whatever format you want, and we'll do the on-the-fly conversion.
Great, thanks, Jeff. I do have another question for you. What are the file formats Xenos repository supports, and which files can be stored?
So the file formats that Xenos supports really are any file format. So basically, if you can store whatever content you need to. What really it comes down to is the indexing capabilities. If you have information about the file that you want to store with it, and it's not a print stream format that we can easily go and extract content from, then just provide a buddy file, provide the index file, and we can load that into the repository so that you can easily search for it and retrieve it. So this, I guess, the second part of your question, can store reports or create reports out of given data. I'm not sure if I completely understand that. However, if you're storing content, then that can be easily retrieved out of repository. Now, by reports, if we're talking about line data reports, those operational reports, well, that makes it extremely easy to store that and pull it out of the repository. And as Will showed with the interactive piece, we can make it very visual. There's additional functionality that we can do to that to actually create interactive dashboards out of that type of content. If the report piece is referring to the operational reports, that's pulled directly from the actions that are done on the repository, the actions that users do and admins do that are stored in the repository database to perform those reports. So I hope I answered the question properly.
Hey, Jeff, it also sounds like he's more asking about creating data as well. So being able to pull, and we can see a follow-up to that, like being able to pull data from multiple different sources, such as databases, and then creating reports out of that data and storing it in a repository. Can you expand on that?
Sure, well, so yeah, we can effectively we can pull out any information and utilizing. So we covered a little bit about BIRT on the reporting side. Additionally, we can use BIRT to pull content out of structured sources such as databases, maybe Cobalt copybooks or things like that, and actually create the statement or report, basically like a composition type system. So, within the Xenos product line and the Actuate product line, we can pretty much do everything from beginning to end, from creating the content to storing the content to presenting the content across multiple channels.
Great. That's the last question.
Excellent. Well, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank everybody for attending. I hope you got something out of this, and feel free to contact us at info@xenos.com if you have further questions or if you'd like a more detailed, personalized walkthrough of the product. And I'd like to also take this time to thank Will for joining us and giving us some insight on Xenos Repository and how it works.
And that will conclude today's webinar, Xenos Repository Advanced Document Storage, hosted by the Actuate Xenos Group. Thank you so much for attending, and have a wonderful day.